Okay, so this is our session 6, which is our final session. So session 6 is what we call a BARD analysis. LFX fundamental techniques. I'll share the bonus video later on after us going through our BARD analysis. So let me just put it down. So we're going to do what we call a BARD analysis. So now BARD analysis is basically a summary of everything that we've been studying, right from session 1. Right from session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4, session 5. Yeah, so the BARD analysis basically summarizes all that we've been studying, and it simplifies chart analysis. Basically, it's just a simple step-by-step guide that you have to follow. Let me call it an SOP that you have to follow when you're looking out for potential setups on the markets. Yeah, so now each letter stands for a rule. So let me just put it down. So we have B, we have A, then we have a D, right? So now B stands for what we call the breaker. A stands for what we call approach over price. Then finally, D stands for decision point area. Yeah, so now these are the three steps or three criteria that you have to follow when looking out for potential setups. Very simple items that you have to pick out. Now, let me kick off with what we call the breaker, right? Yeah, so we covered the breaker under session 1. Under session 1. Yeah, so now the breaker is the first thing that you have to look out for, the breaker, right? So now what the breaker helps us to do, the breaker helps us identify the trend or direction. That is what the breaker helps us to. It helps us to identify the trend or direction. So now that is the first thing that you have to look out for, the breaker, when you're analyzing your charts. So let me just put out an illustration here. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, the first thing that we look out for is what we call the breaker. And now, so here we have what we call a breaker, right? You can see price basically broke a level there. Price broke a level there. So that is what we call the breaker. That is what we call the breaker right there. That is what we call the breaker. So let me just label it. So the first thing that you look out for is the breaker, right? The breaker. Yeah, so now after identifying the breaker, now what you look out for is what we call approach. Approach of price. So now this basically helps us, it helps with confirmation. It helps with confirmation. Basically, it helps with confirmation. So what you look out for is look out for PA. So you basically look out for PA, price approach. So you look out for the compression, you look out for the 3 drive, and then you also look out for liquidity areas. So that is what you look out for under approach of price. So after identifying the breaker, what you look out for is then approach of price. Now here we shall have something like this. So let me just put something like a compression here. So this is what we call approach of price. It could be a compression, it could be a 3 drive, or you could notice what we call liquidity areas. All that is under approach over price right here. All this is under approach of price right there. So down here we have what we call approach of price, right? Approach of price. That is what we have there. And you can see here we have a compression. We have a compression and a possible 3 drive, something like that. Yeah. So then finally, the final concept that we look out for is what we call, we look out for the decision point area. Decision point area. So now under your decision point area is where you look out for your decision point. It's where you look out for your infield orders. Look out for decision points, right? And then you can look out for areas like the QML, etc, just for more confirmation. Look out for decision points. Yeah, basically that is it. So now the final stage is looking out for a decision point. So now right above here is where we find our decision point area, somewhere there. Decision point area. Final step number 3 is what we call the decision. Decision point area. So that is where you basically look out for your decision points. So we could potentially have a decision point along this area, that area there, right? That area there. And as you can see here, we have a QML giving us confirmation. Yeah, so basically this is a summary of what we call the BIDE analysis. It's a summary basically of what I've been teaching, the BIDE analysis. A very simple concept, but very powerful. So that is the SOP that summarizes everything that we've been covering. So under session 1, we did the breaker. So step 1 of the SOP, you look out for the breaker. Then step number 2, you look out for approach of price. We covered that under session 3. Look out for the compression, the 3 drive or liquidity areas. Then finally, focus on your decision point area, where you can look out for potential entries, and you can further look out for key levels like the QML extra and potentially re-entries along the decision point area. Now, something I just want to point out is if your setup fails or if your BAD analysis fails, what you do is you switch to what we call the counter attack, right? The CA. So we covered the counter attack under session 5. So in case the BAD SOP fails, so if your SOP fails, the BAD analysis SOP fails, then you switch to what we call the counter attack, right? So you potentially have an IQM or a flippy area or a swap area. So that is what you switch to. And I think I covered that in detail under session 5. Now, I think let me just get a few examples, then we can wrap up. Yeah, so there's a setup I shared not so long ago. Let me see. Yeah, it was a GBP JPY. I think I shared this 2 days back. So I was basically trying to hint what we're going to study. Yeah, so as you can see, here we had a breaker right there. You can notice we had a breaker along this area here. We had a breaker there. And after the breaker, what we waited for is what we call approach of price. So you can see price approaching our decision point area, right? So here we have a compression. Then right above here is where we identified our decision point within the decision point area. So basically, we're looking out to sell along these areas here. And that is a typical summary over the SOP on British pound JPY, right? So as you can see, yeah, I don't think it has yet triggered because this is where we picked out our decision point. Yeah, so we're just hoping, so let me see, we have our breaker there. That is our breaker. After the breaker, we had to wait for approach of price. And then we're looking out to sell along this decision point here at our decision point area. Yeah, so that is a typical summary. Then again, I shared this setup. This is a British pound, the US dollar. Yeah, I think this setup is based on a re-entry. For those who watched my session on re-entry, you can notice we have field orders. Let me highlight it. Yeah, this week I haven't traded so much this week due to a few things I'm doing, but you can notice. So now we had field orders here. We had field orders here. So as soon as you see field orders, the setup qualifies for a re-entry. So now here is where we had the re-entry. So now right here is where we could pick out, is where we picked out our re-entry setup. And as you can see, we're looking for price to drop. And I think it's already dropping in profit. Let me see. Our British pound, US dollar. So this is a setup on the lower time frame. On H4, it looks like that. You can see dropping. Let me go to M30 because I just want to point out something. I want to point out something. Yeah, so as you can see, the first step of the SOP, identify the breaker. And right there, we had a powerful breaker right there. That is step number one, identify the breaker. So we have a breaker there, as you can all see, that is a breaker. Let me give it another color. Let me give it maybe red. We have a breaker there. That is step number one, identify the breaker. The breaker. Then step number two, wait for approach of price. So as you can notice, we had some bit of price approach. I think that's, let me see. So here we have what we call a compression. A compression plus, I think, a 3 drive. So here we had an approach of price. So you can see our price from the approach. Then finally, we have to look out for our decision point area. So this is our decision point area right there, our decision point area. Let me label it as maybe a green. Our decision point area is right there. So step number two, approach. Approach of price right there. Yeah, so I want to give a homework for the final session. So now notice under our decision point area, the final decision point area. Is where we look out for our potential entry. Now notice here we had what we call a QML. We covered a QML under session, I think session 3. No, session 4. And now notice how the QML coincides with a decision point, and notice how sniper the entry is. So now price basically triggered at a sniper zone. So we had a decision point right there. Our decision point was right there. So that is it. That is it basically. That is it. So I think we had a QML here. We had our QML right there. Yeah, I think let me call it a session. Now, I'll share the recording to this, and then I'll also share the recording to the LFX fundamental techniques video. Now, regarding fundamentals, I usually, for those who can't tolerate uncertainty, I recommend you to stay out of fundamentals. But if the rules meet, then you can trade it, because fundamentals is quite unpredictable. But I think after watching the video I'll share, I think you'll get a few insights. Otherwise, yeah, this marks at the end of our mentorship. Thanks for being a part of it. Yeah, this is my first mentorship of 2022. I believe we've learned quite a lot. So what we're left, what you guys are left is basically practicing, implementing these concepts here, and getting familiar with these strategy here. Otherwise, thank you, and I appreciate the time and commitment you've spared to learn these things here. Otherwise, I wish you all the best in your trading endeavors. And let me call it a mentorship. Otherwise, thank you so much. Bye-bye.